Welcome to the MusicWideOpen podcast
The place for an honest and thought-provoking conversation
about music,
business,
life,
technology,
and the future,
for curious music enthusiasts.
and musicians seeking personal growth. I'm Ingo Wunder.
And I am Paulina Wunder. Artificial intelligence causes mixed feelings. Some love it for its innovative solutions that assist in learning, working, and everyday tasks, making life easier. Others ridicule it for its current limitations and the mistakes it makes, viewing it as a temporary trend that will eventually pass. Some fear it, fear a future dominated by technology that could take over many professions. Others ignore it completely, genuinely believing that it has no impact on their lives and work, or on their future, because they don't use it, or shall we say, they think they don't use it. But what is this so-called artificial intelligence? What kind of opportunities does it bring, and what kinds of dangers? Do musicians have anything to fear? Is there anything that might drastically transform their professions? This is what we will talk about today. Let's start with a very basic explanation of what AI really is. I think it's important to begin this way because I observe that many people, including musicians, use the phrase artificial intelligence as a synonym for a computer program or an internet website, which is, let's put it this way, quite inaccurate.
So what is AI? Well, it's the same complicated answer as if you would ask what's human. AI, alone the term is of course misleading in a way because there's not one thing that is AI. It's an umbrella term for many processes and technologies. But to name two that many people probably heard already is machine learning and neural nets, neural networks. This is basically, if one explains that machine learning, it's like if you want a machine to learn to recognize animals, you first show a robot and you tell it that that's not an animal, and then you show what a cat looks like, you show what a dog looks like, and you show it lots of pictures in different positions of cats and dogs, and it starts to notice patterns, what a dog has and what a cat does not, and so on, and then it kind of gets intelligent and gets better at it. But they were at some point really bad at it, not that long ago. And then it was always people were saying, you cannot teach a computer what actually any 2-year-old knows what a dog and cat is, and the computer does not. But of course, it gets much smarter. So that's machine learning. Neural nets, one can explain that it's basically like a brain. I mean, if you imagine you are a very, very smart a programmer or somebody that wants to invent a computer interface or software, or then you would look into nature, right? I mean, you would check what to copy, and then sort of they try to copy what a brain is doing. So in the brain we have building blocks called neurons, and they work together to figure things out. And in a neural net you have digital neurons, so to speak, and they work together. And if you, for example, show you the picture of an apple, some neurons might look at the color, the red, the green, or some might look at the shape, round, and together they decide, oh yeah, that's an apple. Mm-hmm. And this is basically what a neural net is, and just very complicated.
So maybe let's sum it up that AI systems learn from data, and they improve their performance over time. They can also draw conclusions from the information they get. They can adapt. They can recognize patterns, this is what you mentioned. They can make predictions based on the information they learn. And traditional programs that follow fixed rules without learning from any data are not AI. So this is
True.
a summary.
Yeah. But what you explained now sounds very much like a human. Some humans can do these things.
We will come back to this later. I'm happy I sound like a human being and not a humanoid. We need to start this way because some musicians think that an internet website, let's say full of music scores that they can use right away, is artificial intelligence.
Others refer to it as IMSLB.
That's true. No, it's just a website with a database, free of charge or not free of charge, but it's not AI. It might speed up your work.
And there might be AI underneath that you don't even know, but generally not.
But generally not. It can speed up your work. It makes it possible. You have tons of music scores on your tablet, but it is not artificial intelligence. And I have to say this because sometimes I read that a musician is asked by a journalist, a music journalist, what he thinks about AI development, and then hearing the answer or reading the answer of a musician, I see that that he or she means something that is actually a fixed program or a fixed database, and this is how they understand this AI technology, which is slightly misleading. I would like to now focus on the positive sides of artificial intelligence, because there are a lot of positive and constructive points, and maybe this is where we should go first.
You mentioned it can deal with a lot of data, and it can deal with a lot of data much quicker than a human. That's the good side. So one can use it for really productive work, and one can outsource many things that you might not want to do manually. And of course, good sides as well, that everyday life gets smarter because of AI. You know, they're in so many processes that everybody in the Western world is using. There's AI underneath, and nobody really knows unless you know.
Exactly.
So it's basically not possible not to use AI in the Western world
anymore.
Exactly.
Although some people believe that AI is just a toy and the society will get bored with it at some point and its influence will be only minimal.
Yes.
But we can say, I think now for sure, that will not happen. It will only grow.
Yes, it will grow as long as we have current and electricity.
True.
And so...
But still, the positive sides are there are really a lot of programs and tools that utilize machine learning in order to help and support all sorts of professional groups, also musicians, in their daily tasks or also in learning. Like, for example, a tool that we developed over the last 2.5 years together with ETH Zurich, and it will be released very soon. That one will be for musicians. There are also AI tools that can speed up the music production process. So this makes it easier for independent musicians to produce or to edit music. There are, of course, other ones that help composing or songwriting. And here I'm not really sure what I think about those, because if AI composes music for you or writes a song and one just makes minor changes to it, that's not really honest. So one is not really a composer or a creator, but...
Yeah, but we'll definitely go into generative AI later, so we will talk about this.
That will be the case.
Yes, the common denominator for me is that AI saves time.
Yes.
Basically, AI, as it's made by humans, has human flaws, and it does not really, in the common sense, because there are tools and we want to develop such, that's why, does not really improve humans. right? It gives them just, you can do more in less time. That's why this is the good side of AI, which can also be a bad side if, if
misused.
Exactly, and if people like don't use their own brain anymore, and then the brain gets smaller, or whatever, and these tasks that you constantly outsource are not working anymore.
We're simply getting used to, and
Exactly.
we're getting lazy after some time.
But of course, there are AI applications such as what we also want to do, that is there to make humans actually realize things that humans need to work on. So we're using AI basically to show something that humans could improve themselves with.
To motivate them and to work on oneself.
Yes, and this is, I think, the point. I mean, the point is AI, and the way AI developed the last years, and the press it got, because AI is not something new. I forgot when even neural nets were developed first. This was decades ago. It just never really worked that well, simply because there wasn't enough data. And now with the internet, with everything being published, right and wrong, by the way, that's also another thing, the biases, due to this vast amount of data, all of a sudden it started working the way it works, at least with text.
And on top of that, there is a lot of money being put in AI development at the moment.
Yes.
So this would...
Also because it started working.
Exactly. So this, what some people call AI trend, is not a trend. And it will create a new world for many professions.
Exactly. And this is where I wanted to go with this, because at that point in time, with this much money behind...
Let's maybe say here that along last year, so in 2024, global funding for artificial intelligence surpassed $100 billion.
And it will grow much, much more in the next years. With this power behind it, so to speak, we, as you said earlier, we cannot stop it unless we use electricity. But let's say this will not happen so quickly. You can't stop it. So that actually puts us to a point in life, or in this world, where we really have to ask ourselves deep questions. And this is a problem for us humans, because these are questions that most of humans have never asked themselves, actually. Because imagine you have a machine like now, alone this, I mean, an AI can, for example, read a 120-page document in
split second.
It depends on the computing power, but current computing power, it can be much quicker than this. But current consumer computing power that they give you, it's 2 seconds or what. It depends on your internet connection even. So and we humans, how long it takes us to read 120 pages? Yes, you can say the brain works more, and it does, and you probably remember much more. I mean, okay, the computer remembers everything, but you do a good job for your brain if you remember 120 pages. But the point is that it can do that much, much, much quicker. So therefore, people will just use AI to do such things, because if one person starts to do it, then the other person will, and if you don't do it, you
let's
lose.
put it this way: it's not about memorizing these 120 pages, but if you want a summary of these pages, it will take you much longer to read that.
Yes,
much longer than
absolutely.
2 seconds.
But
so this is
my point being,
what you want to say.
Yeah, I want also to say that with the current state, you will not be able to just stop it. It will be there.
Yes.
So therefore, humans will adapt. And here we have to then ask ourselves actually what it is that, because you just at the beginning you started listing all these things where you could actually say a human can do these things. Yes, that's because it's designed to be like a human in a way. It's a machine, yes, but it's designed to do the tasks that humans do. And then, once this machine can actually do them, and which is now, and which can surpass them. I mean, you can with ChatGPT can write a doctoral thesis about a topic that you have no clue about, and it will be okay to pass. Okay, so this will only grow exponentially the next 5 years, and at that point in time, we really have to ask ourselves, what is it that we do here?
Exactly. I think it's worth mentioning that in 2015, Saskind brothers wrote a book, The Future of Professions, and already then they argued that technological advancements in AI will transform professions such as doctors, lawyers, teachers, accountants, and architects. They were not the only ones talking about the influence AI might have on professions, but somehow a lot of voices suggested back then that creative professions would be the last to be replaced by AI. But what we see at the moment is that AI is actually taking over the creative space. It's not
It's
great.
one of the first ones.
Yes, and it is really scary. It's not great yet, but also here it's constantly improving. I mean, one sees that with digital arts and movie productions.
Sorry that I interrupted you here almost, because I just wanted to say that one of the top 10 AI predictions for the next 5 years is that AI will be able to create human-like art, music, writing, and rivaling human creativity.
You see, and here I would like to add something, because I am aware of this, and we as human beings really have to drop our ignorance and arrogance. And I would say especially musicians, and especially those ones who work in the creative space, let's call it this way. Recently, I heard someone, I think it was an actor, saying, AI will never beat us in creativity because it can't write like Shakespeare. And then my immediate thought was, can you write like Shakespeare? No, you can't. So you have been already beaten by AI, or in the best case, you're equal. People often think about the outliers. Can it beat Shakespeare? Can it beat Mozart, Beethoven? But these are outliers. It's not important whether AI can beat them or not. There are over 8 billion people out there, and they are not outliers.
Yes.
So we should rather think, can AI do what I do? Am I really that superior? My point is that the focus should be on me, not someone else that was an outlier in the same field I work or I create.
That's right. I mean, I just wanted to throw in here that, you know, if you use alone ChatGPT, then you give it any text and ask it to write it in the style of Goethe or something, and it can't do that. And I don't know if I can write in the style of Goethe.
This is what I say. This is what I say. It might be not great.
It might not be as great as Goethe.
But it will be better than you, or better than me, or better than most of the people.
And that's scary already.
That is scary already.
But that's what I meant by that we have to ask ourselves, what the hell are we doing here in life, I mean, because I know the education systems and all of that, they are not designed to make people think necessarily, but in my humble opinion, the first things when children are starting to grasp the world is that one teaches them to ask the questions, why? Why is it that we do anything, really? Because now we are, how creativity works, let alone that we don't know what consciousness really is or how it works. But I don't go there now. But how do we create, for example? How we can make that statement that we say an AI is not creative?
Yeah.
It is creative. It's just it's the matter of how creative it is and how much more creative are we.
On average, not much.
Well, this anyway, not. But even if you are a very creative person, where is your creativity coming from? Is it coming from data that you have, you know, heard or seen, and then you
copy?
Yeah, copy, or you modify it, you mix it with your own feelings or with your own sensory input that you get from the world and make something new out of it. That's creativity. Yeah, it is creativity. But the computer does the same.
Yes.
But the good news here is that we as humans, and we in AI development, we know that this is true. There's of course still layers in sensitivity and in
emotional intelligence or authenticity.
That also, but alone in art, if we stay in art, for example, if there are layers of sensitivity of of art that AI cannot yet do, but spoiler alert, most of humans don't hear them anymore.
Exactly. They don't recognize
And that's then yeah, that's a stupid situation, right?
That is especially if musicians don't focus on their authenticity, or they try to please someone else with their performance or with their interpretation, and they are far away from their own individuality or originality. And this is a bit scary. Talking about musicians, there are, as well as we talk, some musicians robots that are being developed. I will give just 3 examples of the more developed musicians robots, as of today, at least. There is probably the most known, Shimon. It's a marimba playing robot that utilizes AI to improvise music, including jazz and rock compositions. There is also Veer. It is a bot known as a robotic cellist. It doesn't use AI, so it's pre-programmed to play complex pieces with precision, including vibrato and bow pressure. So at the moment, human cellists have nothing to fear because Veer doesn't learn. That's the good thing.
Not yet.
Not yet, because it's a bot. It doesn't utilize AI. And there is Alter 3. It's a humanoid robot that utilizes AI, and it can sing and conduct. But there are other ones that companies are working on.
Yes, I mean, you just mentioned robotics, which is of course then a whole new ball game, because this is really already advanced. It will advance so much in the next years, and people will just, of course,
especially if they utilize artificial intelligence.
Yes, and of course they will, let alone normal tasks in life. Of course, you will gladly have a humanoid robot that cleans your bathroom perfectly. People will have that,
yeah, well, you're talking about this. This is an interesting point. This one can be very useful, but probably most of the people don't know that Tesla, not Nikola Tesla, but Tesla, the car company, is shifting its focus from cars to humanoid robots.
Yeah.
And they plan to produce 500,000 to 1 million units by 2027.
Yes.
And these robots will be AI powered, of course. Elon Musk claims that their humanoid robot will be the biggest product in history.
Thank God he's not in the government right now.
Haha. It's quite scary because the company sees a future where robots outnumber humans. And what they mean by that, they think of 30 billion autonomous humanoid robots globally. Mostly, of course, we are talking here about household tasks, personal assistants, or workplace applications. However, and that's the not so funny element of this whole story, it could also impact some aspects of music performance and music production. Well, stage crew replacement would be maybe to some extent a good idea, especially if we are talking about tasks like loading and setting up gear that can be really heavy for a human being. They are also talking about robots that could potentially play musical instruments. And that is not funny anymore. And what's even less funny, Elon Musk mentions that their robot, called Optimus, by the way, is capable of learning and playing music on a piano. Tesla is very proud of the fact that they are quite close to replicating the complexity of a hand in their robots' custom designed hands, obviously. Here we are talking about the degrees of freedom, so the range of motion. So in other words, finger degrees of freedom, thumb degrees of freedom, wrist degrees of freedom. Already now, this current version of their robot has 22 degrees of freedom in its hands, and a human being has 27 degrees. And something tells me they will want to improve this robot over time.
Yeah, and such a robot can then do anything with that. But this is, of course, many things one hears from Elon Musk, from other companies, are, of course, wishful thinking, the marketing up to a point as well. We don't know exactly how accurate such musician robots will be. And
we don't know that.
And they might not get there.
Hopefully not.
Yes, hopefully
I would
not.
Say.
But they might as well. And therefore one has to ask these questions, because it's like AI has so many, or AI assistants or so have so many good sides. I mean, if you think about alone diagnosis, or if you check medical stuff, it's already so good. Even the consumer things, which are not even trained on medical data, already they help you in normal life already so much. That one can only imagine how it is if you have done a real... I know Watson, I really have a problem with Watson, I think, at the moment, I don't know. But if you have a super AI making predictions or making diagnoses in medicine, I mean, they're already much better than a human doctor can.
But they can gather much more data, and they can...
In less time. Again, this is the time, you save time, right? While... though a very, 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 very good human doctor would have that human gut feeling that would tell you maybe much better what's wrong with you holistically, but exactly that skill is what people give up by themselves. It's, of course,
true,
combined with the fact that we have so much now tech and AI, and we rely on it, we sleep with the phone, we do, I mean, not me, but we do all these things, we are getting attached to it so much that it's impossible to determine what the technology made with us and what we make with the technology. But these, and in music it's similar, that's why I'm coming to it, these human skills that the AI cannot have, or at that moment does not have, who knows, some people talk about AGI, we'll come back to that. This gut feeling, sort of, that we give up because we are relying on the facts, so to speak, whatever these are, right? But there the computer beats us. So in other words, we're giving up these things that would make us better than machines, and do it the way that the machines are already better. This is similar what many composers do already. Many composers write music for media, or I'm saying media because this is the most easy, because there are so many generative AIs already making media music. But many humans write so mediocre media music that it's really easy for the robot to be the same or even better.
To replicate it easily.
Yes, but it's not the robot's fault, it's the human's fault. And this is exactly the sensitivity I was talking about earlier. That
the same actually with the interpretation, because what happens often, if you show a classical musician a piece that he has never ever seen in his life, and he is about to play it for the very first time,
he doesn't know what to do with it.
He doesn't. Most of the musicians don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, interpretation.
Yes. So their interpretation is really simple or mediocre.
Because they have nothing to copy. Because they haven't heard anything yet, which again leads us to AI, because it's trained on data. And then you say it's not creative if it does something. Well, humans are also doing the same things. That's why many people are complaining about AI, that it's so dangerous for humans and so on. But our own actions are
we are dangerous for ourselves.
But anyway, but we also, with our actions, don't make us a favor by helping the machines to beat us.
Yes. So making fun of AI or its, again, current limitations doesn't help and doesn't improve anything.
Yeah, especially if you look at I was checking the top 10 AI predictions from really a lot of sources, and it goes all in that direction. I mean, the funding is there, so it obviously goes, but it's generative AI mastery, of course. AI will create human-like art, whatever human-like art is. And that's exactly the point. So if we take away the human factor of it, then it will beat us and it will overtake us, because you can do more in less time.
Yes.
Then another one is, of course, AI in daily life. We touched upon that. I mean, smart assistants are already everywhere, and smart devices will seamlessly integrate in everything, in everyday tasks. On the newest iPhone that is released, I mean, it's AI ready. It's not, I don't know if the newest operating system has it already, but it will be full of AI eventually. So it will listen to you, it will show you the way. It does already. It does already, but it will learn from it now much better. So it will suggest you already what you might be thinking before you think. Yeah. And this is, of course, a vicious cycle. Then real-time personalization, of course. This is this. Then AI-driven collaboration. This is what you mentioned in the stage example, but it will happen everywhere. AIs and humans will work together. That's the first step. Before the AI will replace that human, eventually, maybe.
What's a bit worrisome is that Professor Geoffrey Hinton, a Nobel Prize winner, who is also called the godfather of AI, says that he didn't expect the speed at which AI technology has developed. And what's even more worrisome is that he fears, and I believe it's honest, whether it is or not, he fears that it could drive humans extinct in 10 years, making humans the equivalent of 3-year-olds, and the AI would be the grown-ups. And unfortunately,
we're looking at some people.
So in a way, I can imagine that, unfortunately, and this is a very scary future.
Well, it is. I mean, I'm always careful with such things, even from very smart people, because usually humans mess things up. I mean, it's also something that one can almost count on. And they might have messed something up, right? And we don't even know yet about it, maybe. Because that's also one point I wanted to make at the beginning, which I did not make yet, is when we talked about neural nets, right? And they are rebuilding brains or brain activity in some sense. Then a very big argument for me always has been that we don't know how the brain works.
Correct.
So if they designed it after that, then they will have made a mistake.
You mean the creators of neural
so
networks?
in other words, we don't know even how our human brain will develop really. I mean,
so we can't as well predict how AI develops.
So it might just go bad at some point, or in a good or bad sense. I mean, like, it can go bad and die, or it can go bad and overtake us completely and kill us all, right? But anyway, but the point is ethical frameworks, and that's what triggers when you said that earlier. This is also very much on the agenda. Of course, there will be lots of ethical frameworks. They will try to regulate it. They will not succeed in regulation because they didn't with the internet. It's still free if you want. Of course, most of the internet is not free, and how users use the internet is not free at all anymore. But it can be free if you know what you're doing, or almost. So they will not really be able to regulate it. Then there is bias. As we have all biases, there is bias in AI. And how to mitigate that? Of course, very smart people are working on it. But again, people are people, so it will be misused. It will be used for agendas. It will be used for political stuff. And
okay, but let's go back to musicians, because this is...
Yeah, but this is sort of connected, because we are, as we cannot... As I said, the good news for musicians, from my point of view, is that if you have very high standards in your listening habits, like if you have very high standards in what you...
Not only that you're talking about this, that you have high standards, yes, but you really understand and you really have that.
Then you will not be easily fooled. You might be still fooled because AI is very good already. But then you will want more than those AIs can generate or these robots can do. But if you have not so high standards.
Then you will be replaced by humanoid robots that are AI powered.
Yes, and then it will be a matter of choice for listeners if they prefer humans doing it. Like if you're, okay, yeah, let's listen to the worst guys, but they're humans, so let's support them.
Well, this is partly connected to the subject that we already touched upon in one or even more episodes of our podcast, that if we keep promoting standardized performances, standardized interpretations, then that will be the first thing to be replaced by AI.
Yes.
So we need to put emphasis on individuality, on artistic expression, on the way how one creates the sound on the instrument.
Absolutely, because if one doesn't, then it's like...
Then you're just, sooner or later, if that would happen, that there are so many humanoid robots in a very, very near future, and some of those will be playing music, this we can say for sure, because the companies, multiple companies are working on the robots. Then it's not such a bright future for those musicians who care less, or they just want to execute music without mistakes, or just however.
Yeah. Well, in a way, we are, and that's also very good from my point of view, is that this really unique point in time with this AI revolution forces us humans to become better humans, in a way, if we want to survive. Or at least ask ourselves what it is that makes us human.
Exactly.
And what it is that makes music music. And why we are...
And what's good music and what's not good music.
This is what I mean. What makes music good? What makes music for us that it's worth doing? Or what makes a phrase really great? Why am I playing this and not that way? What does it really do? Not only that I know, yes, I played it different, but what does it do? What is the effect on humans? What is it? Because if the AI is getting so good in replicating things, which is already very good at it, that sometimes you cannot even say anymore, then we really have to think what it is that we do here. And this is a good thing. It's not a hey, end of the world kind of thought. No, but it's a challenge. Because
it's a challenge,
so far,
and I don't see these kind of discussions in the classical music space at all.
No, because they're playing for the last 300 years the same kind of music, and the last
Not
60 years they play also the same interpretations.
Because they have a lot of things to
but
copy, yes, but that's sort of true, because they have a lot of music material to copy. The humans are copying other human beings.
Yeah.
So the machines can do the same.
Exactly.
But that's why there's need for such a discussion. Not only asking musicians what they think about AI, and these musicians don't even have any basically what AI is or what it can become, but really start a constructive discussion, what it can really mean, what it is, what it can mean for us musicians, and for whom.
Yeah. Well, it's just a matter of time, and many people do that already, that AIs will perform with humans in tandem on stage. They will just do music together. It will fuse at some point. And,
yeah, but this is a subject that is being avoided in the classical music space.
Yes, because they think that...
they are superior.
Yeah, the music is so great without knowing what's actually great in the music, that it will survive everything. And yes, the music itself is so great that it will survive everything as long as...
This is what you call the compositional layer will survive.
Exactly.
Yes.
But every compositional layer, and we also mention that often, and we will still mention that often because it's so important, every compositional layer reaches the brain of a human being through the performance layer. Even if you have the ability of reading a score and hearing it in your mind, you hear it with a performance layer within your head. So therefore, this is actually the very good news for classical musicians, if you really take it serious. Again, if you have this human sensitivity and this high sensitivity, then there's still many things to do for humans. But if one gives it up, not so much.
That's true. Of course, nobody has a crystal ball, so we cannot say for sure what's going to happen. But what we know for sure is that this technology doesn't stop, and we human beings, including artists, including musicians, cannot get lazy. They have to think what they are doing, and they cannot get as well arrogant, thinking that they are superior in their creativity, because they are not.
Unless you switch on the real human high sensitivity that we talked about, then there is still a certain superiority, but those people that think they are superior are most of the time not.
Yes, because here again they are always thinking about this, what I've mentioned already, and I must repeat here. They are thinking about the outliers. They are thinking about the great examples.
Yeah.
Either in the
it's the hive mind in a way, right?
Yes.
I am Mozart.
Yes. Or I'm from that group. You have nothing to do with the person
I'm
in terms of your talent.
I'm Mozart.
Yes.
No, but this brings me to another prediction. I have, of course, not mentioned all I have, because there are so many. Some might be wrong, but some might be right. And one is advanced reasoning models as well. We touch there into the subject of AGI, artificial general intelligence, also such an umbrella term which means many things, but it's translated into human language. It's that it's able to cross reason between all fields, so that all of a sudden an AI in music can cross-reference stuff with health AI and stuff. So in other words, it would be,
or even alone in the creative space, in music and in painting and in
exactly. So
writing.
But in everything, you see, it's not like only a couple of subjects. So basically, the AGI describes a world where an AI can basically reason like a human, just with the power of reading 120 pages in 0 point something seconds. Yes. So therefore, probably also this dystopian or negative view of this Professor Hinton, who has this replacement theory, and whether this will happen or not, we don't know, and probably lots of things are wishful thinking. But there are signs that's practical signs. I'm not, because we're reading a lot of studies and results and that's very interesting. But for me, the proof lies still in the cake when you eat it. So when you use the models and you think like there is something going on there, it knows stuff, and then you, of course, it can be just
scary and uncomfortable.
It can be just coincidence, obviously, but sometimes a human says something where you think, wow, that was smart, and it can be coincidence too.
That's true. Everybody has his good day once in a while.
or not, and that's why it's really a tricky subject. Then some say, I'm not a big believer in quantum computing, to be honest, but some say that quantum computing and AI will have a sort of a synergy, and that would boost again the capabilities of reasoning and problem solving and stuff. As I said, I'm not a big believer, but it could happen. And if it does, then it will just speed things up. And we are not talking about in 100 years, we're talking about in 5 years from now. And that's the thing we really have to...
it's not a science fiction.
Yeah. And whether it will go to that amazing extent or not, it doesn't matter, really, because it will be still very, very good.
Yes. I think we can both say that we personally like technology, right? And we see a great opportunity in it. It can be used to build wonderful tools for learning and for self-improvement. The tools that can support music students and musicians in very many ways, in positive, good and constructive ways. But since the power of technology is much bigger than most of us can imagine, it can become dangerous if we keep pretending we're absolutely superior. We come back to this thought in this podcast over and over again. And here I just would like to ask musicians, dear musicians, don't copy. Don't play just clean notes. Focus on your artistic individual expression that makes you human. There will be enough of robots in future.
And always keep asking the questions why? That's the root question. Why am I doing this? Why am I playing this way? Why do I take that tempo? Why do I play that phrase this way? What makes music for us humans? Ask these questions and robots will not take over.